So Saturday, 17th of August, and we are in the lovely Norfolk market town of Dereham to do their very new Dereham parkrun.
So it's a beautiful sunny morning here in Norfolk, and you can't actually see it because we're running through the trees, but what a wonderful place to be on a Saturday morning. The summer just keeps to be giving this August with the sunshine, so we're going to enjoy running in a country park, taking in sounds and smells of nature.
Hope there's not too many smells of nature around here.
So this is the sunshine I mentioned when we were inside the trees.
So we've been coming to Dereham now for several years to run the Dereham Runners Town Centre 5k and the Dereham 10-mile road race. But this parkrun, I know, has been well over 10 years in the making, but this is event number 5, so they got it up and running this summer. So well done and thank you to all concerned. So the course is 1.5 laps of a purpose-built country park. You can see it's a mixture of trails, little bit of compacted stuff, and it is in a purpose-built country park. I think just talking to one of the core team here, Jonathan, he said that the town council bought this land off farmers with the idea of providing a country park recreation area for the people of Dereham and surrounding districts, and it's an ideal loop to use for the town's parkrun. So what we're going to do today, because this is a new parkrun and many of you won't have seen it or done it before, is I'm going to run around with Insta on my head, take a full point of view of the course, speed it up at different bits, and also drop in some fun facts about the lovely Norfolk market town of Dereham. So one smaller loop, which we're wrecking now, then the larger loop obviously goes out that way. So on to the practicals. You need to park at Dereham Town Football Club, where there is ample car parking and toilets for you to visit before and after the parkrun. You then got a 1/4 mile walk or jog up to the start and finish area of Dereham Parkrun. So after a quiet launch in week 1, in recent weeks Dereham Parkrun's been getting in the 200 and 300s in terms of attendance, and today I think was in the high 200s.
Welcome to Dereham Parkrun. This is a very traily course, so if you're expecting anything nice and flat and fast, you should be in Norwich or you should be somewhere else.
No, there's no way I would rather be than in Dereham. So 1, 2, 3.
2, 1, go!
So as recently advised, this course is quite traily. We'll set off on some nice compacted trail here that's been put down by the council, I think, and in a minute we'll sweep onto a more muddy stroke grass section. Well, it's not really soft mud at this time of year, it's hard compacted mud, so really nice to run on.
So today we're going to take it nice and steady, as tomorrow we have the Dereham 5k race.
Yeah, so swing your left here onto the smaller loop, and we then have quite a long section of, well, it's a path between fields, so it's again nice bit of dry mud, as you can see here, bits of grass, plenty of room to overtake if you've set off a bit slower than normal, and then yeah, a long stretch here. Probably went about half a mile right across this field with nice views to the left and to the right. So here we go, during kilometre 1, Dereham fact number 1. So variety is the spice of life is certainly something we adhere to as parkrunners who like to go all around the country experiencing different types of parkruns. But that phrase, variety is the spice of life, was first written down in 1785 by a man called William Cooper, who spent his last few years in Dereham, is buried in the churchyard, and if you go to St Nicholas Church, as we did afterwards, you can see a lovely stained glass window in his memory. So just about to swing another left now off the muddy bit of track and onto a more grass trail. This is a short section before we get into a nice sheltered part into some woods. So as we can see so far, nothing really to trouble the scorers in terms of footwear. We ran this in road shoes, and certainly this time of year in lovely mid-August sunshine, it's road shoes all the way from just about everybody else we saw at today's parkrun. Once autumn sets in and the weather turns and there's rain, I suspect that certain parts of this course will be better served by running in trail shoes. But I'll leave you to make that decision if you decide to visit Dereham Parkrun in the months to come. So entry into these woods marks about the 1 kilometre part of Dereham Parkrun, as promised, nice and shaded here. So we're ready to move into the 2nd kilometre and our second Dereham fact. And it goes all the way back to 1799, and one of the people most associated with Dereham, ironically only spent one night here. He was a Frenchman by the name of Jean Denard. He was a French soldier who'd been captured in the wars that were taking place between the United Kingdom and France at the time, and he was being taken from Great Yarmouth to Peterborough with some of his comrades. Now, because Dereham has a large bell tower that is separate to the church, they decided to keep the French prisoners in that bell tower for one night. Denard escaped and was in an oak tree, hoping to evade capture, where somebody spotted him. He was shouted down, but either he didn't understand the English or decided to ignore them, and he was shot and killed, and he was buried in the churchyard. And several decades later, a local vicar thought, because the people of Dereham felt actually quite ashamed that what had happened to this young Frenchman, who was, not causing any threat to anybody, that they erected a gravestone to his memory in St Nicholas Churchyard, again, which we visited after this parkrun. So the arrival of Dereham Parkrun to Norfolk's roster fills a little bit of a gap geographically. You would have to go east towards Norwich, where you can find a handful of parkruns, or west towards Swaffham, which I think is about 9 or 10 miles west of East Dereham. So in terms of filling a hole in parkrun world, Dereham Parkrun is very much welcomed. As I say, there's been plans to have a parkrun in Dereham for several years. Never could really find the right course, but here it is, and it's absolutely lovely to take part on. So speaking of geography, Dereham likes to pride itself on being at the heart of Norfolk, right in the middle of the county. In fact, the geographical heart of Norfolk, the centre point, has been worked out to be in the car park at the Tesco, about 1 mile from where this parkrun takes place. So if you ever wanted to know that you've positioned yourself right in the geographical centre of Norfolk, take a trip down to Tesco.
I hope you're finding this video informative and entertaining, and if you are, please give it a like.
And if you know of anybody else who might be thinking of coming to Dereham Parkrun, then please consider sharing it with them to help them find out a little bit about the parking, toilet arrangements and the course itself. So now well into the second and larger loop, and here there's a lovely wooded covered section here. I would advise being careful about tree roots in this section. I had to keep my eyes glued to the floor to make sure I didn't trip over any, and to warn Dawn of tree roots forthcoming too. So as I go through the darkness of the woods, it's possibly a good chance to mention the fourth Dereham fact, which is Dereham's darkest day, which was the 8th of December 1915. A German Zeppelin had been planning to raid London, for some reason not being able to. It then thought it was flying over Norwich and actually dropped several bombs instead on the town of Dereham instead of the industrial city of Norwich. 5 people were killed in the raids, several others were injured, and it was a real shock to this sort of quiet Norfolk market town to suddenly have the First World War visited upon it. So sadly, those people, including a local jeweller from the town, were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But we're now turning on to the right place, and we're back on the footpath we did in the first kilometre of this parkrun. Again, you go the full length of it before turning back into the woods at the bottom of the field that we went through, again in the first and second kilometres. So Dereham today is a town of about 20,000 people, and as I've said, it only recently got its parkrun. So what are the other towns, cities and maybe villages in the UK crying out for parkrun? Let us know in the comments below if you think that a parkrun needs to be established in an area near you and any possible venues there could be in that region. So the fifth Dereham fact, and the reason that I love coming back to the town so frequently, this time to do the parkrun but also regularly to do the Dereham Runners 5k, is that I've traced many of my ancestors to this town. It gives me a sense of connection to the place. I walk down streets, I look at the different buildings and I imagine the lives of my ancestors. People carrying on everyday trades like tailoring and living their lives in this beautiful part of the world. So as you re-enter the woodland, we did on the 2nd kilometre, you get a real sense of pushing on towards the finish. But there is a little sting in the tail to take note of, which we'll arrive at shortly. So as we're into the last kilometre here, here's one final bonus fact that I found about Dereham when having a coffee in the Wetherspoons later this day, and that is on the 31st of March 2022 in that very Wetherspoons called the Romany Rye on Church Street. There was a visit by one John Travolta, the movie megastar, Saturday Night Fever and plenty of things since. He was popping in because he was in the area doing some filming for production, and so there he is, pictured in Romany Rye Wetherspoons in Dereham. Stardust comes to Dereham. So coming up now, that little sting in the tail I told you about. Now most people these days run with a sports watch and you are very well aware all the time quite how far you've run and quite how far you've got to go. But if you're of the fraternity that do not have a sports watch, you're just passing by here, what I thought would have been the finish area, which is where you started. Oh no, that is not the case, because you've got this loop to do, which is about another quarter of a mile. So don't charge ahead, seeing all the volunteers and the cones there thinking, yeah, just about to finish this parkrun with a glorious sprint finish, because you'll be sorely disappointed. It's a case of failing to prepare is preparing to fail. But of course, if you've watched this video, or if you've got friends going to Dereham Parkrun who might see this video, you won't make such an error. So here we are approaching the finish of Dereham Parkrun number 5 in a time of little over 27 minutes. Lovely run round these fields. It's fantastic that this area has been created for the people of Dereham to enjoy, and it's fantastic that a team of volunteers have got stuck in and got this parkrun up and running. Not so easy to get parkruns up and running these days as it was maybe 10-15 years ago. It's a really fantastic effort from the people of Dereham and all the volunteers. So if you are a parkrun tourist, I would heartily recommend coming and adding Dereham to your roster. I think it's the 284th different parkrun venue I've run at. So Dereham Parkrun done, and yes, very varied course, lots of different surfaces as you've seen on the video. On a beautiful summer's day like this, a lovely place to be. So if you are in the Norfolk area, make sure you check out Dereham Parkrun. So if you enjoyed joining us at Dereham Parkrun today and you'd like to see our further parkrun travels around the country, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you enjoyed today's video and you found it useful and informative, please consider giving it a like. And if you think of anybody else who might want to come and find out about Dereham Parkrun, then please share it with them.
So until next time, keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on.